what we're going to be doing this evening is I'm going to be going over what the hell happened with Darleen, Jonathan, Mark Walton, the whole thing. Jim, this is something that honestly completely wrecked me for a very long time. Still does, but you know, day by day, just getting through it. But it's something that I believe that needs to be talked about. Had to pour me a drink for this one. I feel like once I get, this out there, then I've done everything I can to kind of, make people aware of what happened and the shit I went through, honestly, with everything that happened. And so I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't know who Mark Walton is, you don't know any of that, you're probably not going to understand any of this. I would say there's a good gap in my life the past few years, going back about a year and a half ago, and then back to 2017. A little before then, a little bit like, it was just a lot of work and nothing else. This is what happened. So, I'm gonna be honest with you, nothing good is gonna come out of this for me. If anything, it's gonna make things more complicated, but I don't care. And once I have my piece said, it honestly doesn't matter. The only thing that I want to come out of this video is Mark Walton died in 2012, almost 10 years ago, and he still does not have his final grave marker where he's buried. It's a piece of marble with the date on it, his name, and it says temporary marker. It should have been handled a long time ago. I won't get into the will and what he really wanted after he passed away. It's irrelevant at this point, and it can't happen. So I'll be posting this video tomorrow if I go and visit Mark and see that the temporary marker is still there. All right, then I'll publish this video. But it's one thing, for me to honestly think to move on with my life and everything that happened. Be good to get this off my chest. If you're watching this and you don't know Mark, it's just gonna make it weird. Because I really don't want to post this because it's stupid, man. But yeah. So I made some notes so I don't go off. I don't even know how to compile this into I don't want to go on like an hour-long video about this. And I don't want to get upset about it more than already I'm just thinking about making the video, but it needs to be said. So the intro, what I'm going to go over here is Darleen Hillendahl, Jonathan Walton, Mark Walton, everything that went on with Jim, and my involvement. Okay. I've known Darleen since I was about 6 years old. I knew her longer than a lot of you people. And that doesn't make me any better or anything else, but I really want to put in perspective this relationship that I had with her. Was like the relationship I had with Mark. It was like another parent to me. I knew Darleen longer than I knew my actual mother, put it that way. Never once, I even think that maybe I shouldn't trust Darleen. It's Darleen, for crying out loud, the sweetest lady in the world. I made Mark happy. And I can see why there's a lot of confusion out there for people trying to figure out what the hell happened. And why I've been making posts every month about Mark still not having his grave marker. Maybe this, at the end of this, I just hope everybody comes to their own conclusion. Like I said, I don't expect anything out of this at all. But I do have a couple of things that I would like to put out there if someone was wanting to make things right. It's not about the woods either for myself. But that is part of it, of course. And yeah, so Darleen, I've known her since I was a little kid. Jonathan was like a brother to me. Like, you always hope that he would turn things around and kind of not be an asshole, like he always was to me and the way he treated me. But, you know, it's maybe I shouldn't have cared as much as I did, but everything I did, but I'm going to go over here, I did out of love for Mark, the respect I had for him, Darleen, and all of that. And, you know, at the end of the day, this video is also going to explain to you why everything is my fault. Everything that happened is my fault. Little backstory. As some of y'all know, I was living with Jonathan at the time when all this was going on. The reason for that was back in 2015, how to put this in a way that makes sense. I started having some health issues when I was living in Dallas. Couldn't find out they were panic attacks and anxiety attacks, but they weren't just like little, you know, oh, you'll get over it kind of things. I went to the hospital multiple times, called an ambulance multiple times, thought I was dying multiple times. It was really bad. This ended up affecting my work. I couldn't pay my bills, and I had to move, and that's why I moved back down from Dallas. That to put it to sum it up. When I moved down, I stayed with Nick and his family for a little bit on the couch, trying to get back on my feet, and then I moved in a few months later and with Jonathan on Darleen's property in the trailer. And that's, you know, that was in 2015. Now, take a little break here and say this. A lot of people borrowed money from Darleen and Mark and Jonathan. I was one of them. But I have the documents and everything else to show. I've paid them back everything in full to this date. And so if there was any confusion on that matter, regardless of I'll get into it later, what Darleen has said or her family to anybody, I don't owe them a goddamn thing. I have the receipts and everything else, including for Jonathan. I owe them nothing. Nothing. So moved in, trying to get back to my feet, get things going. I was struggling for quite a while with the anxiety stuff. There were other things and factors going on in my life that didn't have anything to do with this, that were also weighing on me, that was hard at the time. But that's not here or there. There's other things. So up to 2017, my relationship with Jonathan completely deteriorated. It was just getting worse. We never really did well in close quarters for extended periods of time. Moving into that trailer was a huge mistake, and I shouldn't have done it. Because the whole thing wrecked me, to put it lightly. But at the same token, I'm glad it happened too, because I know where things stand. I know my expectations out of this is literally zero. But I think this is the last thing on my list to do and make to move on. Because I think about it every day. It upsets me to this day. And I feel like me putting this out there that's it, man. You know, I've done everything I could. Mark, for those who don't know, Mark Walton was like a dad to me. I loved him very much. I was there the day he died. One of the last things he told me was, one, don't make me shoot you. And, look after Jonathan. And, I had all the trust in the world with Darleen and how things were going. I had no reason to think things weren't going to go like how they were supposed to. Spiritually, religiously, I'll put this out there right now. I honestly hope there isn't a heaven or hell or afterlife, because if there is, and Mark looked down at everything that has happened, heartbroken. I couldn't even put the words, like, if he has seen what has happened, man. And I'm not saying I'm an angel. I'm not. I had to work. I mean, I've gotten better since then. My temper, not great. Especially when I'm passionate about something, especially with this family and the things that were going on. I flew off the handle. I would get very upset. Very upset. Was that danger to anybody? No. But it got to a point where I'd be very upset, and it's very obvious. It's very emotional. And Darleen used this against me, which I'll get into. Jonathan, of course, they had everything on me. There was no good situation that came from being in a relationship with these people at all. Because they had the ultimate leverage and knew I would never say no to them. Or speak up. So, up to 2017, there were a lot of things that were going on that year. What really kicked it off was one day Jim called me. He was asking about the tractor. The Kubota tractor we had at the property. It's like, is the tractor at Darleen's property? Because that's where we're staying. But no. Jonathan was telling people one thing about the tractor and telling people other things, and they started asking me. I'm not going to say I was, in charge of the woods or anything remotely even close to that. But Mark trusted me and to look after the place and the things that were going on. Earning those keys was one of the most proudest moments of my life. I worked literally my whole life up to that point, busted my ass at that property. And for those who went there and know and worked too, you understand what I'm talking about. I'll put this out there very firmly. I completely, 100% never expected to get the woods at all. My dad, when I was a kid, we were at the woods. One time Mark popped off and said, it's a memory I have very vividly. But Mark said, whoever puts the most work out here, including myself, when he goes, they get the woods. My dad immediately corrected me as soon as we left that weekend. I said, that'll never happen. I remember the stock 100%. And ever since then, I knew that was never going to be a thing. I never got my hopes up for that. I never honestly wanted that. I wanted Mark. We lost a really good person way too soon. And Mark, and I'll say this too, I loved Mark. I respected him dearly. He wasn't an angel at all either. He made mistakes in his life, and he's done things, and he could have done things better. But that's everybody. Mark helped as many people as he could, and he did. He went well beyond what he honestly should have done for a lot of people, but he did. It's because he cared. He's a really good dude. Was he perfect? No. The dude was weird. He annoyed some people. He pissed some people off, and that's okay. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea. But to me, he never once did me wrong. He never once disrespected me. He put me in my place when I needed to be put in my place, but he was always there for me. So that's why, I talk highly of him. After he passed, I held on, just hoping things would actually make sense after that. With things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen, but it's irrelevant. So in 2017, Jim called inquiring about the tractor. I think he wanted to borrow it or something. At this point, I was more focused on getting myself back on my feet and out of there. And so the times they went to the woods, I would say between 2017 and up to the event, I didn't go, which is hard. It was basically because I knew having that time to myself, without Jonathan being there, I'd get work done. It was a lot of work. One thing that I'll go ahead and fast forward, but we'll go back, is Darleen, especially, and her family, Kevin, Even though towards the end, really tried to make it seem like I owed them and I was using them and I needed them and I was a mooching piece of shit. Hopefully, as y'all can see, since I left there and moved, it's not why I stayed there as long as I did at all. My intention on staying there as long as I did was because I knew if I left and things were not fixed, they will never get fixed. And the things I'm about to go over with all that, like, I couldn't just leave. Yeah. As much as I probably really should have. I should have left. Staying there as long as I did, holding on and hoping. And what I had to deal with, this is literally the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. It almost took my life. But I knew I wanted to be able to say that when I left, I did everything I could. Yeah, you know, if there is Mark up there looking down, hopefully with some bourbon and Diet Coke, saying, what the fuck? Hopefully he knows this video right here, this is the last thing. I'm putting it all out there. I've done literally everything I could. Pardon the lighting, the audio. Come to find out, you can't hook a mic up to my DSLR. So, but I digress. So anyways, Jim called, inquiring about the tractor. I started putting things together. Things started making sense that shouldn't have started making sense with Jonathan and things that he was doing. At this time, you know, I had no ill will or any reason to doubt Darleen. I trusted her with my life 100% at this time. I started, without having proof at this point, realizing what was going on and the fact that I had to say something, because if I didn't, this could have affected my relationship with Darleen and my respect and trust that I thought I had earned with that family. I would have never have done anything to have lost that respect that I got from Mark, which I gave that trust I thought I earned with Darleen after Mark passed. You know, treated just the same. This is there. Anything they ever needed, I was there. So started putting things together. At this time, I was eating meals in my truck. I won't go into all of the other stuff because it's irrelevant. Let's just say the living conditions were not okay. I was eating meals in my truck, and Darleen called me one day. I was like, what are you up to? I'm like, eating in my truck. I wasn't going to go any more into it. And then she asked why. I wasn't going to lie to her. I told her I can't eat in the house. The bugs. It's really bad. Jonathan, of course, as some of y'all may know, was not the cleanest person, to put it lightly. It was bad. I built a wall halfway in the middle of the trailer. It didn't really work. I couldn't cook. Come to find out as well later, after Hurricane Harvey, that the water well, for whatever reason, no one told me that the water was not okay to drink or bathe or cook with, which I had been doing from 2015 up to that point and still continue to do afterwards because I didn't know. Living conditions, unacceptable, unhealthy, and dangerous. I'll go into a little bit more here in a little bit. So she inquired what was going on. She asked me, so I told her while I was eating in the truck. I didn't expect her to fix anything. I was just telling her what was going on. She well knows Jonathan and his living habits. And so we talked further, and she asked if there's anything else I want to talk about. And it's around the same time, maybe a week, a few days of when I talked to Jim about the tractor, in which I've also approached Jonathan about trying to figure out, Jim was asking about the tractor. Is it not at the woods? Or, you know, I don't know. And, you know, he lied to me straight up. I could tell. One thing with Jonathan is a lot of you could understand. The dude is brilliant, but he's also dangerous. I've never met someone in my life who can manipulate somebody and put on a front or whatever he needs to do to have someone think a certain way or feel a certain way or do something like he is. Yeah. So once I kind of figured out, like, why would he even lie to me about, like, the tractor, what's going on? So I inquired more. I was like, why did he bring the 700 to where we were living at one time, and just other things, his random trips back in 2014 when Mark's house in Houston, the one he left to Jonathan, was broken into and all the guns got stolen. I was there that day in Houston. Jonathan came back. He's like, this happened. 50 cows. Like, he went through the list of guns, and I'm like, oh my God, like, that's not okay at all. Did you call the cops? He said no. At that time, with what happened in 2014, I had no reason to think he was lying to me. It's just like, wow, that really sucks. What he listed out to me, I mean, it's, Mark and what he loved Jonathan. I mean, it was just insane. And the fact that he didn't want to call the cops, I was like, let's go to the house right now, and I'll bring my gun and we'll get everything else out of that house. Then he's come out of the house, and he put it off. And it was really weird to me. But forward to 2017, with all this stuff going on with the tractor, like, things started making sense that were really like, what the fuck, man? Like, what is going on? So when Darleen asked me if there was anything else going on, I was like, you're probably not going to like this, and I don't have proof of it. But I think Jonathan I think Jonathan has or is selling, stealing, because at that time, I apologize. I have to go over about half of this video again, because I'm recording on my old phone, and it stopped recording. So, yeah. I got to do this again. So at this point, Darleen, I believe is where I asked me, what else is going on? I told her, you're not gonna like what I have to say, and I don't have proof of it, but I think Jonathan has done something with the tractor, the 4-wheeler, which he had at the house prior. He's lying in the gym, doing weird things. I think he's selling the equipment at the property, and you should know this. She did not, like I suspected. She didn't really believe me. I had no reason to lie about any of this. This sucks. I'm gonna have to get this again. Get this done, and that's it. So yeah, I made a touch base on the time when Jonathan wrecked his truck on the road and at the woods when he was out there. I didn't know he was at the time. He blew out the tire. Needed me to come and pick him up, which he did. He loaded the truck full of bags. At the time, I didn't think anything about it. In hindsight, it's 2020. I wanted to stay for like 20 minutes. Like, hey, can we just chill? I've been out here a while. You've been to the woods, like what the stars look like at night. It's amazing. But he was weird about it, and so nope, we went home. The nail in the coffin was, for this week, at this time, I was pressure washing the driveway at the house using Darleen's pressure washer. And then I left to go do something, and I came home later that day, and it was gone. And I asked Jonathan if he moved it, and no. So I called Darleen and asked if she came and picked it up, because I wasn't done yet. It was a pretty big driveway. She said no. I was like, what's gone? And this is after we had to talk about all this stuff going on that I didn't have proof of at the time. But that was it for me. I had to figure out what the fuck was going on. And it was getting weird. And I just didn't want any of this to turn on me. looking back, it could have very easily been done. It could, like, dude. So I went to, there's a pawn shop that was across 1960 where every few months, whatever, I'd go and get a loan on one of my guns, so I could float myself for a while and go buy it back, and did that quite often. So I built a relationship with the guys at the store, and this is all I had, like, to even try to get, like, something, which I was really hoping they would have said no or couldn't do it or something. But I went in there and I asked them, like, I told them what was going on. The guy that was there, I was pretty good with. They were good guys. And I'm like, is there any way you can look up, like, my roommate, and then told him the situation. I was like, did he bring in a generator? They looked up another thing. They said no. But apparently, like, all the pawn shops in Houston, they have like a network of, like, a database, even if it's not the same company. And lo and behold, they're like, yeah, Jonathan Walton did pawn a generator. And I mean, I went from, I was shaking, I was hot. I'm like, oh my God, man, like this, at least, like, I knew, like, everything I was suspecting is exactly what was going on. It was even worse than that, and I'll get into that. I called Darleen immediately after leaving. And they wouldn't, like, print anything out or let me get access to any of the information. Like, you need to go to the pawn shop and see this for yourself. Like this, like, it's like, this is what's going on. He's lying to you. She's like, I just talked to him. He said it's at a friend's house. I'm like, please, like, I just left the pawn shop. This is exactly what's going on. And, like, I need you to do that. She didn't believe me. I had to literally force her, please, like, go. Like, I should have needed to even, like push her that hard to do it. Like, shit, man, everything was on my shoulders at that point. She went and she got the proof. And from that, it was about a week. I wish she would have acted sooner, but she didn't. That week, I mean, I honestly was expecting Jonathan to light the trailer on fire in the middle of the night when I was asleep. Because last thing I said to him was, he came out and asked me, he's like, you making any shirts? Trying to make small talk. Last thing I said to him is it's best if we do not talk right now. It's the last thing I said to him. And then I walked into the garage, like for him to even, like, act like nothing's going on, and he's got to know, like, none of it makes sense, especially, like, where he was going with any of it. Like, he was so deep into this shit. It makes no sense. I think we did have another talk. Because this is when he wanted to, like, grab a knife and kill himself. That was that. So add that to the list of what the fuck. Told Darleen. And then that week kind of went by. And that fucked me up too, man. Like he went for it, dude. I had to stop him. Like, what the fuck, man? And so, like I said, I wish Darleen would have acted sooner. She ended up calling the cops. The cops came out. They arrested him. And she had him committed to a mental institution in Houston. And then, like, they couldn't get in his truck. I used to drive a tow truck. I had a lockout kit still. I unlocked the truck for him. They were very, I didn't expect, like, I did the right thing. Like, I did the right thing. Like, there was no other way to go about, like, me saying something. Like, it had, like, that's, but I thought I did the right thing. I still do. It's, what sucks is everything that follows and everything else that happened and that's come out of it. And it just doesn't make sense. Just doesn't. So that happened, like, they were very thankful I did that, which I was like, I was just doing the right thing. That's what Mark would have wanted. It sucks it had to be Jonathan. It's like turning into my brother, but I had to do it. Like, you can't, it's not something you can just ignore. And then, especially with Jonathan and how he can manipulate and turn things on people, like, holy shit, he could have turned all that on me very easily. Because he did it in the past with little things. Like, he would do something, fuck something up, or piss somebody off. Like, oh, Steven did it. And 9 times out of 10, I wasn't there to defend myself, so they had no reason not to believe Jonathan. Like, he was an asshole, but, up to this point, he wasn't really known for being, like, a liar and manipulator and all that shit. It's just scary, man. Like, what if I hadn't have said something? Because this is where I'll get into, like, the other things he was doing. Darleen has been since Mark died, has been living with her son and his husband ever since, and they lived there, and Jonathan had access to the house. So come to find out, Jonathan, while they were at work, would go through their house and steal shit and go through, like, stealing jewelry. I don't even know the whole scope of it because I didn't really want to ask, like, all the details, but this is what they told me. Like, they would take, like, Darlene's family heirloom jewelry, like her grandmother. Like, he was just doing all, like, I don't understand where he was going with it. Because at some point he had to have known he was going to get caught. Like, so, all that stuff. I got left with dealing with the trailer and the habitation that I was living in and that needed to be taken care of after Jonathan left in order for it to even be remotely, like, and I cleaned up and fixed things the best I could. I even had to replace the fucking toilet. I'm not going to get into details, but let's just say things weren't working like they were supposed to. This was very well known, obviously, by the makeshift, like, whatever was bad. I didn't have the money for a new toilet or anything, so I did ask Darleen, like, can you help? And there's so many things. Like, it was bad, dude. It was really, really fucking bad. But they were going through what all that just happened. So I wasn't going to ask them for, like, I'd handle it. So, like, what I had, I put into that place and tried to take care of. And I want to make something very clear, and I may have touched it on the first part of the last video that cut off. Like, I don't owe them $1, penny, cent, nothing. I got the financial documents and everything else. Everything else I borrowed from Darleen, I paid back. Everything I borrowed from Jonathan, I paid back. Every single cent. Once things got out of control with that house, all my money there were days when I did not eat. I didn't have money. The money I did have was going in, like, temporary fixing things with fucking Gorilla Tape and just makeshift shit. Because it was just falling apart. I asked them for help multiple times. They just started getting more distant and distant with me. Well, transition to where this involves Jim was, I didn't know at the time. I don't know how long Jonathan was living there before Jim told me. Jim specifically told me on the phone. He's like, I didn't tell you because I know you wouldn't have approved. I'm like, damn right, man. Jim... After Jonathan got out of the place he was in, I was not given any updates to anything that was going on, which I was heavily involved in. That was kind of weird. Like, when I was living there, I was just waiting for Jonathan to show up, put a bullet in my head. I still am. Like, there's not a day goes by, I'm like, someone knocks on my door. It could be Jonathan. And I'm the reason the whole house of cards fell and just his petty way of thinking things, the dude, and the way he's treated my entire life. I know how he is with me, and so it's even more of a possibility now when I put out this video. Like, this is not a good situation to be in, but I gotta put this out there and be done with it. Sucks I have to do the video twice. I just went through it all. So Jonathan was staying at Jim's house. Jim was doing better. He was in a recent thing he was doing with the cancer stuff and all that. But he was doing better. He was excited for life. I mean, we talked on the phone once or twice a week. He was excited. He was weirded out, but, like, because I was like, have you been able to go to the woods or anything? He's like, Darleen won't let me go. He's like, he wanted to go. I mean, hell, he even wanted to go at one point just to collect his stuff. His deer stand and everything else. It was very weird. Like, it didn't make sense. But I talked to Darleen when I finally got, like, to sit down and talk to her, like, our weekly things. She was upset with him because Jonathan was living there, which I get. I didn't want to involve myself with anymore. But things just started getting weirder. I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but like my red flag with Darleen was when Hurricane Harvey came through, and I still haven't been able to go to the woods since the whole Jonathan fiasco happened. And I want to just during Hurricane Harvey, we had that little tin John boat that's up by the front barn under the shed, the little boat. You know, there's nothing I could do at the time during the hurricane and the aftermath and all that, but I was like, shit, I could go up there and get the boat and I could help people, because I knew people like Nick and some other friends of mine, like they were in apartments and apartments were flooded and they couldn't even get to the apartment building where they were up on a second or third floor to get some stuff. And I'm like, well, I can help people. I can go get the boat. So I asked her. She said no. I found that really weird. Because one, I mean, I really didn't even need to ask her. I had the keys, everything else. Like, that would have never been an issue. She said no. I just found it really weird. I asked her like the next day, like, what do you mean? You know, kind of deal. Just didn't make sense to me. Like, just grabbing the boat. So that was the first red flag for me. It just didn't make any sense and kind of made me start like sitting there like, what's going on? So then the gym thing happened. Jim, like I said, Jim was doing good. I talked to him once or twice a week. He was excited for life. Things with Michael, and he took his family fishing. They went to Galveston or wherever the hell they went. They went out. He wouldn't have done that if he was on his deathbed from cancer. Okay? I'm not saying he was completely healed, but he was well enough to do that and take his entire family out, including Jonathan, on his fishing trip. Well, lo and behold, in the middle of the night, Jim has an accident and hits his head on the floor and fucks him up in the hospital. Guess who found him in the middle of the night? I asked his kids, like, please tell me one of you are the one that found him. Like, no, Jonathan was standing over him. And this is what killed Jim like 2 weeks later. He was in the hospital, fucked up, having seizures, all kinds, just not there. Very convenient. Especially since I told Karen, like, I was really like, when I found out Jonathan was living there, I'm like, this is not good. I even told Karen like 2 weeks before the fishing trip, I'm like, God forbid something happens to the gym while Jonathan's living there. You're going to have a monster on your hands. Like, that's it. If there was any person left in the world that Jonathan maybe would have listened to was Jim. But that's all that was in Jonathan's way of not having to deal with, responsibilities and doing things. If Jim wasn't there, he'd rule the roost because the Jim family owed him money. And, the way I told Karen, like, you got to get him out. Like this is worst case scenario. And this is what Jim was alive. And I thought I was being overboard saying that to her. But then the accident happened. Jonathan's the one, the thing that really gets me and why this goes into, it could be a far stretch, but I was right about every single thing. Everything. Up to that point that Jonathan was doing. Even without proof. Like, my gut, like that. I would like to think Jonathan didn't do anything to cause Jim to have his accident, but at this point, with everything that's happened, I believe Jonathan killed Jim. And the fact that no one's looked into it, I've discussed this with a few other people, like, are y'all not seeing this? And yeah, it's out there, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. Anyways, they just kind of forgot about any of that. And Jim's funeral, I couldn't go. I didn't want to ask Jim's family to babysit Jonathan for me and move him to a different area so I can go pay my respects. They were dealing, they just lost Jim. Didn't really have anybody else to ask at the moment because at this point the relationship with Darleen was just weird and I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I was really hoping someone would have reached out to me like, hey, do you want us take Jonathan into a different room or something? You can come pay your respects. I would have done that 100%. I love Jim. Jim was one of the three amigos. Jim, Mark, and my dad. I mean, Jim was like a dad to me. I love that man. He was, you know, like one of the last few conversations we had, we were just shooting the shit because he had the Dodge Hemi. Like, I would love to show him the truck I have right now. Like, he was a good dude, man. Even, you know, like him, you know, being there for Jonathan. As much as I thought that was a wrong thing to do, you know, it's just who he was. He wasn't going to turn his back on him. He never turned his back on me either. And, you know, he's had these conversations with me and decisions and things I've done in the past. And I'll say it again, I'm not an angel. I've made mistakes in life. I've fucked up. I've done things I wish I could not do. But in the realm of where we are right now in this conversation, you know, but because I didn't go to Jim's funeral, and I believe Jonathan and his manipulation with the family, they turned on me and got mad and said, Jim loved you and he was like a father to you and you didn't go to his funeral. And that hurt. I mean, at this point, I was just, my world was falling apart, dude. Like, and during this time, so I'm going to move on. Take what you will. With what I just said, I know Mark had some friends in Houston Police Department. I'm just saying, like, I would love to be wrong about that, but up to this point, I've been wrong about nothing. Not a goddamn thing, man. And I miss Jim. Man, he was, you know, Michael, the kids, they're great. It just sucks. It's just one other thing I lost with all this. And like I said, like, I'm not trying to blame anybody. Everything that's happened up to this point is my fault. If I would have not said something, maybe Jim wouldn't be dead. I know it's not right to even say that, but this is what I think about. Because ultimately, maybe things could have been different if I wouldn't have said something. So the fallout that came after that was the communication with Darleen was getting more and more distant. The times we would talk, she'd bring me something that was Mark's. But yeah, I think he would like you to have this. And one of the things was the tactical fanny pack she gave me. She like, this was Mark's. You know the stuff Mark had, just random shit. And she would like say it, like, you know, because I'd bring up the keys to the woods because she said change the locks. I was like, I'd love to really go up there, even if it was just for the day to sit on the porch. She said, yeah, I need to get those made and I'll get you set. Like, she would lead me on like this went on for months. And the communication got distant, like, things she was saying and doing completely different. And it was Darleen. This is where the whole thing is right now with what I want people to understand. Like, is nuts, man. It's Darleen, right? But it went on long enough to where I was fucked up. I was not in a good place in life. And it was either putting a shotgun in my mouth or leaving. But, and I told others this, is like the reason why I still haven't left it. Because I knew if I left and things were not fixed, they would never be fixed. I was right about that. And I'm not making this video in hopes of getting able to go back to the woods or getting in graces with anybody. None of that. That ship has sailed, and that's not why I'm making this video. But I knew, like, I had I wasn't gonna do that. I wasn't gonna do that to lady. I wasn't gonna piss away all the work I did for my business at that point. I was disgusted, like, is this really what it comes to? I was broken. And I thought every day for a while there. But there was a speech I was listening to one day, and it's, you know, burn the boats. Make a decision to where you have to make something happen. And I had to force myself in a position where I had to leave. And I wasn't going to fucking blow my head off. So I made that post on social media for the first time, calling out that's why I'm making a video now, because there's not enough I could type out in the world to really make sense of this. There's no amount of videos and notes that I could go over to really explain like what the fuck happened, man. But I knew in making that they would see that and not be happy with me, and that would force things along. And I was right about that, because the following morning I got a knock on the door, and there's Karen, Kevin, and Darleen. Kevin and Karen both had their phones recording while they served me papers, and proceeded to say things like I owed them money, and just make... The thing is with the Waltons is like they knew what would make me get very upset very quickly. Jonathan was really good at doing this. Never imagined Darleen would have done it against me, or they would. The only thing that makes sense why they're doing it is because they wanted me to lose my shit enough to where they had on video, this man needs to leave this house, and they could have called the cops on me or whatever else. I wouldn't have hurt anybody, but there have been times when I got very fucking upset and I flew off the handle. And they were the only people that can make me do that quickly. And it's something I've worked on my entire life, and that's why it's like I can't deal with stress anymore. It's not worth it for me. It fucks me up. My body just goes to shit. And I truly believe that was their intention that morning. But I told them no, like it's not. I told them, and I would love if they still have the video, share it, because they said all those things to try to get me pissed off and riled up, and I said let's take it to court. I said it's not about the money. They knew that it wasn't about any of it. It was about just the bullshit, man. But I knew the day before making that post, like that set things in motion where I had to leave. That was what I needed to do in order to make that happen. It's just very disappointing that they showed up and did that. And I'm being completely 100%. I have no reason to lie. And if they still got the videos, I encourage you to post it. And now is the last I talked to any of them. That when that happened and I realized what they just did, like that was okay. It confirmed my suspicions what was going on. They wanted me out of the house. I started talking. I don't think they expected me to say anything. And it spooked them. And they tried to do the only thing they had left, which was to get me to do something stupid. And that happened. I mean, that fucking happened, man. Like, I remember I even apologized to Alfredo, Kevin's husband. Like, I apologized. I'm like, I'm sorry you got to be involved in this. And he spat off at me. He was like, I was like, wow, like that just happened. They followed me because I went to my truck to get cigarettes. They followed me in my truck and they kept just saying shit that, like, literally just to get me to like lose my temper, do something. The very next day after I posted that, y'all can go back. It's still on. It's if you go like to the Home Away from Home photo album, it's in there. Once again, to my customers, if you're watching this, I want you to understand like there's nothing ongoing. This happened a few years ago. It's just something I need to say my piece and get it over with so I can move on. This honestly will probably help me with work because it's something that bugs me every day. It's still something that I feel like I need to make this video in order to move on in life and say my piece for whatever happens with it. But, you know, at the very least, you know, this will get Marcus gravestone. He died almost 10 years ago. And the dude still has a temporary marker. And not only that, he had an original temporary marker that had like a deer and said "Bless the Broken Road" on it. It was decent. Then they went missing for like over a year, which I mean, very weird. Like, this shit's gone. for the longest time, nothing was there, and I kept pressuring it on social media. I'm guessing they're getting a whiff of what I'm posting every month. Yeah, a new temporary one. White marble like the last one, except this one, they just put his name, the dates, and it says literally temporary marker on it. And this is like a year ago, like not even a year ago they put this out. I was up there probably 2 weeks ago. Same thing. I offered this before and it still stands. I don't care if it costs $10,000, $20,000, whatever it costs. I'll keep the peace. I'll go pay that bill right now, tomorrow, whenever, and get it done. Because that needs to be taken care of. Because this is ridiculous. Grieving widow, whatever excuse you want to give her. There's no excuse for this. None. Not to mention, Mark didn't want to be buried at that cemetery. He didn't want his parents to stay there at that cemetery. I know there's a lot of logistics in the moving bodies, but that's why we were all there that last weekend. There are a lot of y'all probably watching this, I remember. We were there. The last time Mark was at the woods, y'all remember what we were doing? We were talking about the plot, the cemetery spot that he was planning to get the authorization to the county to build, where everything was going. Literally, the last time Mark was at the woods, this is what we went over. None of anything he wanted was done. Not even the bare minimum. He doesn't have a final grave marker, gravestone, like the thing his parents have that are right next to him, that brass plate. I don't care how much it costs. I will pay it. Get it done. I'll keep the peace. But I won't stop bringing this up until it's done. Because what the fuck? Like, are you kidding me? And I'm laying these things out so people who are like, just Darleen, really fucking just listen to what I'm saying. And so anybody thinking, I was mooching, or I was there because I needed to be there, or I was a piece of shit moocher, I want you to understand, if you've looked at my history the past year and a half since I left, 2 years, whatever, it's not the case. It all comes down to I stayed as long as I did because I knew if things weren't fixed before I left, there was no fixing it. And I want people to understand, like, I'm not making this video hoping to fix things, get it back like it was, because no, that ship is sailed. Conclusion. I'm not going to stop talking about Mark and fighting for him to have just the bare fucking minimum grave marker thing. It's not like tombstones or like brass plates. Until that's done, I will keep fighting for Mark. I believe, god damn, out of all the things that should be done and squared away and made right, this is the bare minimum. If you're a grieving widow, Darleen, oh, you miss him, you loved him, you fucking kidding me? You can't even give him a fucking grave marker? Because it's not about the money, because I've been saying it for the past year, I'll pay for it. There's no excuse. There's no, the pandemic and time. No. I work with laser engravers and engravers every fucking day. This could have been done minimum 2 weeks. There's no excuse. But I'll let those watching this video come to their own conclusion on that. Second thing, if you want to start making things right, if you are the Darleen we remember you are, and you loved Mark, like you said, you loved Mark, and you were the Darleen we all thought we knew you were, you will immediately transfer the title, the deed, everything to the property of the woods, the 48 and the 150 over off Copeland Road, to Arthur Walton. No strings attached, nothing. All in whole. You want to make things right? You want to show me that I'm wrong? That you're not a fraud? That I'm wrong? Do that. Give the property back to the Waltons. I've not spoken with Art. I don't think Art likes me very much. But it's what's right. That's the only thing that's right at this point. If you want to even remotely try to prove me wrong, Mark needs his grave marker, and the woods goes back to the Waltons. Do that. You give the woods back to the Waltons, I'll remove this video. I'll say again, nothing good is going to come out of this video for myself, so I want you to understand I have no reason to lie. I have pictures, videos from over the years of staying at the trailer. I wish I would have had a cell phone that day when they had those on me trying to get me to do something. I don't, but I have everything I could have had. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. If Darleen wants to talk to me, I do not want to talk to you. If you want me to pay for the grave marker from Mark Walton, contact my dad or whoever else. Contact me. We can arrange this to get it done. I have the money right now. But I'm going to go to wherever it's getting made and pay the bill myself and get a receipt so I know it's done. And, whatever Jonathan's doing in life, man, if you see this, dude, you're like a brother to me. I know we had our rough times. I hope you understand why I did what I did, and I had to say something. And if you're watching this, I told you, man, because I haven't talked to you since that week. But I told you, dude, before, if there's something going on, talk to me. And I said I wouldn't get mad, nothing. And you just don't be mad at me. Darleen, however, proved me wrong. Like I said, get Mark his grave marker and give the woods back to the Waltons in whole. Deed, title, all of it. Do that. Prove me wrong in this video. You can go from there. And I'm sorry for everybody who had to watch this. I'm sorry for the cut in the middle. Hopefully I touched on everything, but if anything, which is more likely the only thing that's going to come out of me making this video is the peace of mind for myself. It's all out there. From what happened with Jonathan, from my side of why I was there, how I'm involved, what I did, my decisions at the time, Jim, and I wholeheartedly stand by what I said with how Jim died in my on that, and I'd be glad to speak to any investigators or anybody else who want to ask any questions on that. Because it wasn't the cancer that killed him. To the Hoffmeisters, Karen, the kids, I want y'all to know, hopefully if you're watching this, the reason why I couldn't go to your dad's funeral was because of what I said. I just couldn't risk seeing Jonathan, and I wasn't going to ask you guys to do that during the passing of your father. So, I hope y'all understand. I love Jim. There's no reason, I wanted to be there. I couldn't. It may sound, you couldn't hold your temper. At that point, where I was at in life, I didn't want to risk myself getting into trouble or ruining any potential I had at a successful future. And doing something on y'all's. And the Steve, Jim, everybody else that I really hope are kind of maybe, or are, I've heard things, where People are now being labeled as not trustworthy just because of their association with me from said party. And I find that very offensive. And this is not something that's recent. I've known this for a while. And it's much of the same. One thing that, you know, you're just hoping I go away. And that's not going to happen. And if this hurts some feelings, I apologize to the Walton family. I don't mean to do this and bring this up repeatedly and rub salt on the wound. I love you guys. I feel like I'm the only one kind of, and I get it. Like, I'm okay with being that person to speak out and say things that most people wouldn't. Totally fine. I'm doing what I feel is right by Mark on my end and what I can do. And that's what I'll do. And that's it. Thank you for your time.